People live outside for many reasons. Sometimes it's because of a mental health disorder where they experience anxiety around other people. Sometimes they are avoiding people because of substance use disorders, or they are wanting to be near people because of these various disorders that they're experiencing, for access to drugs, access to alcohol, and even just access to friendship and intimacy that they can't experience while they're in a shelter that is, genders are separated. They often find that they have privacy. Their belongings are around them just like you would have in your apartment or home. And they have independence. They can come and go as they please outside. I try to listen to their stories and engage them where they're at. Some folks are willing to sit right down and do the paperwork that I have to get them into what we call the system. That paperwork can be an hour long of intimate questions that most people wouldn't want to have a stranger ask them. Other times I listen to their frustrations and their stories about how no one's helped them, or they're frustrated with the system and the bureaucracy and the barriers that they feel keep them outside and out of the housing that others have at their disposal. Spend a lot of time identifying what their needs are. We use a tool called the VI Spadat, where I ask a series of questions to triage where they're at and what they need. And I spend a lot of time trying to make calls to provide them links or access to things they might need immediately, whether it's medical care, shelter, clothing, legal advocacy. There's a lot of things that just pop up in the moment that can be answered with a phone call. When I go on outreach, I try to go out to areas that I suspect people might be living in. They're usually isolated and quiet and away from populations. So even, say, if I walk downtown, it's going to be in the alleyways or in the back, say on Water Street or other dark spots in our city. I go out to the woods. I try to use referrals of other folks that are homeless to determine where there might be tents and look around in that area. I also go to places like Walmart or the mall for folks that are trying to get cash during the holidays. An example of someone that I've been able to help would be Stevie is one who had worked with the shelter staff off and on for probably a decade, lived in the woods in a wooden structure that he liked to call a cabin, and I don't know if your camera can catch that, but to me it was a set of Lincoln logs, and it was very unsafe and cold. He worked and engaged with shelter staff for years and would come into the warming center in the worst of weather, but then go back out and return to his cabin until we were able to secure a subsidized housing voucher that enabled him, with no income, to get into housing and to start the rapid rehousing, Housing First model going. While there, he was able to start his application for Social Security, get some medical attention, and unfortunately, because of an injury, lost his life recently from that injury, but was the first for me to see go from the cabin, living outside, to having this apartment that he just adored, with views of the Thames River, and he kept it spotless, and he loved to cook in it, and he loved to have friends over, and it was just his pride. It was the cap on his life in his older age, after really experiencing a lot of harsh weather and declining health due to that experience. Antibiotics, heart medicine, other medicines can either harm you or be ineffective in cold weather. And so when folks come into the warming center, not only are they getting a quick fast track into waiting for that more permanent shelter bed, but they're improving their health by having their medications be effective and safe for them to take. They're lowering their risk also of other things like burns. When it's cold outside, your nature is to warm up. And after you've gone through all the coats and gloves and scarves and things that our wonderful community donates, you start resorting to things like kerosene and propane and firewood and other things outside or in structures. As soon as you do that, you put yourself at risk of burns and at risk of fires for yourself and the structure and your environment. And so we're actually saving lives by opening that warming center and inviting people to come in and not have to resort to these means and unsafe methods of protecting themselves from the cold. Folks come in and they know they have a home, they have a place where they may not have been able to get a bed or had to wait for a bed and wait outside for a bed. When it's cold outside, they can at least be safe and be loved and be accepted and know that they've got people looking out for them.